Conservative new media viewers, J-Lin fans around the world, Charlotte Hornets fans around the world. What's up? It's me, PFV Paul F. Villarreal, the NBA expert. We're here to discuss the Hornets' 104-95 victory tonight over the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Countdown to the woo, so if you don't like loud noises, please turn down your speakers now. 3, 2, 1. Woo! Look, this was a really important victory for the team. I talked about it on Twitter. I think I talked about it in the last video. The schedule is getting a little bit easier, and it was even easier tonight because Minnesota was playing without Andrew Wiggins, without Ricky Rubio, and without Kevin Garnett. And Minnesota was played yesterday, so they were also on a back-to-back. Charlotte had to take advantage of this. And fortunately, they did that. Now the team goes into tomorrow against the New York Knicks with the opportunity to get to 4-4 on the season. That would be terrific after this difficult schedule. If they're able to get back to 4-4, that would be a big accomplishment for the team. It's not going to be easy. The Knicks won tonight, and the Knicks are an improved team, as are the Timberwolves. Let's talk about this game. Minnesota got double-figure scoring from 4 of its starting 5, led by Zach LaVine, who had 20 points and 8 assists. He started for Ricky Rubio. Karl Anthony Towns, the extremely impressive rookie, 19 points, 13 rebounds. Kevin Martin added 18 points. And Nemanja Bjelica, I know I'm saying his name wrong, Bjelica, 13 points and 7 rebounds off the bench. The Hornets... He only had 2 stars of double figures. Nicholas Batum, 17 points, 6 rebounds. Kemba Walker, 10 points, 6 assists. Jeremy Lamb, 18 points, 4 rebounds. He had a really nice game. Cody Zeller, 14 points, 6 rebounds. Jeremy Lin led all scorers for the Hornets, 19 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists. Played 26 minutes, shot 6 of 11 from the field, including 1 of 5 from three-point range, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, 3 assists, no steals, no block shots, 0 turnovers, which is real nice, 1 personal foul, plus 18 on the night. So 3 assists, no turnovers, 6 of 11. Most of his misses, as you could see, came from the three-point line. He needs to keep working on his jump shot. He's good at mid-range shots and this type of thing, but his three-point shot still needs some work. He's still perfecting that long-distance shot and his shot release. Now, to be fair, several of the threes that he missed tonight were under pressure, but the shot still doesn't look good. At least the misses don't look that good. So it's something that he just has to continue to work on it. I've said in several of these videos that that's the one thing I would work on if I were him, is that thing. Because when he's able to make that shot more consistently, he's going to get more playing time and he's going to score even more, and his game's going to open up even more because then defenders are going to have to play closer to him. So if you wonder why the ball doesn't come to Jeremy late or late in this game, it didn't come to him, it's because he's not shooting the ball great from three-point range. It's not terrible, but he'll get the ball more in those circumstances when his jump shot is more consistent from there. That's just my own opinion. Now, Jeremy did finish the game tonight, which I don't think was the case in the last game, and we'll talk more about that in a second. First, let's go over the key statistics from this game, why the Hornets won the game. They won the game because they got 8 more free throw attempts than did the Timberwolves. Minnesota turned the ball over more also than the Hornets did, and it cost them more. The Minnesota's turnovers led to 22 points from the Hornets, whereas the Hornets' turnovers only led to 15 points by the Timberwolves. So that's a +7 for the Hornets there. They were +8 in free throw attempts. And another main statistical reason, or probably the main statistical reason why the team won tonight, was because the second unit for Charlotte totally outplayed the second unit of Minnesota. That's a great sign for the Hornets because the second unit has been the problem this season. However, it should be noted that Minnesota's second unit was really like its third unit because of the missing players tonight. So you can't feel too comfortable after this. Still, this is a big step forward for Charlotte. And I mentioned this on Twitter the other day, and I'll say it again here now. I was hoping that the super run that the Spurs went on in the third and fourth quarters against Charlotte, I was hoping that the team would look at that film and that might help the second unit out a little bit. Sure, they know what they're supposed to do and they know where they're supposed to be mostly, but you need sometimes, first of all, you need to get beaten down sometimes so that you get motivated to do something about it. And number two, you need to see how it's done properly. And the way that the Spurs played in that sequence there, that whatever stretch it was incredible. And that should encourage Charlotte's second unit. We got to do it like that. We need to be sharp the way that the Spurs were sharp and the way the Spurs second unit was sharp. And not just their second unit, but the first unit too, but just that's how we need to execute. So if there's a gap between how we're executing and the way the Spurs are executing, we need to work a little bit harder to close the gap. And I just think that that might have lit a fire under the team tonight, and particularly under the second unit. Starters weren't that great. They really weren't. Maybe that's why Coach Cliff stayed or went with Cody Zeller late in this game rather than Al Jefferson, who didn't have a super big game. So the finishing lineup for this game, let me see, and it came, excuse me, it came together with, actually, no, I take that back. Well, the finishing lineup at the very end of the game was Kemba Walker, Jeremy Lin, Marvin Williams. No, excuse me. Take that back. I'm sorry. The lineup switched a couple times here down the end. Kemba Walker, Jeremy Lin, Nicholas Batum, Marvin Williams, and Cody Zeller. So even though Jeremy Lamb had played well in this game, he didn't go down the stretch. And Al Jefferson didn't play down the stretch. And there was another game earlier, and what was it, against Atlanta, I think it was? Or maybe it was against Miami, where Al Jefferson didn't play down the stretch. I'm sure Al's not going to be thrilled about it, but playing Cody Zeller late worked. They were able to do a couple of pick and rolls with him that I think got a couple of dunks. And he's just a little bit more athletic. He can move a little bit better than Al can. And look, it worked. So what they did primarily down the stretch was they mostly used Nicholas Batum as the point guard, a little bit with Kemba. And that meant that Jeremy was playing shooting guard, and on several of the sets, or most of the sets, he was standing off into the corner, in the right corner. That's just kind of that's the set that they were using. Look, like I said, I know some Jeremy Lin fans are mad he didn't get the ball. One, he's covered. Two, like I said, he's 1 for 5 shooting threes in the game, and his shot isn't fully dialed in. And so if he's sitting there in the 3-point line and you're a teammate of his and you have to make a decision about who's going to get the ball, Jeremy might not get the ball. And that's just kind of how it goes. As he shoots better, he's going to get the ball more. And I'm not concerned about it. The most important thing for me tonight was win the game. It was a kind of a side benefit that Jeremy Lin played in the final stretch of the game, and he deserved to because he played well in this game. He scored the ball well. He didn't turn the ball over. The second unit as a whole, they played smarter. They were sharper. They were cleaner in the way that they executed, and that's what they needed to be. Like I said, they've been the issue. And tonight it was nice to see them being able to kind of pick up the starters when the starters didn't play that great of a game. I was surprised early on in this game. Minnesota was sharp. They were energetic, and Charlotte looked flat. And you wouldn't expect that to be the case with Minnesota coming in having played last night and Charlotte having rested for 2 days. But that's the way it went. And fortunately, the tide turned whenever the reserves came in for the Hornets. There's like I said, Charlotte had to get this game. They if they're going to contend for a playoff spot, they must win this game. Now, I talked about what happened statistically. I just briefly mentioned what happened from a flow perspective. Let me say it a little bit more. Minnesota had the momentum early on in this game. They got a nice lead. Then the reserves came in late in the first quarter for Charlotte, and they actually ended up finishing off the quarter, did Charlotte, up by 1 point. Heading into halftime, Charlotte was up by 4 points, and then there was I think if I recall correctly, Charlotte had a nice cushion in the third period, and then Minnesota kind of made their final run. They made a push to get the lead down a little bit. And then Charlotte answered that push, held the line, and then they were able to finish off the game. So it was the case that whenever the first units were out there, Minnesota was getting the better of it. But whenever Charlotte went to more of its reserves, they did better. As I mentioned, Jeremy Lamb played well in this game. J-Lin, of course, played well too, and they said on the Minnesota broadcast, which is the broadcast I was listening to, that it was a Jeremy and Jeremy show, and it kind of was that, thrown in with some Cody Zeller and Nicholas Batum. So that's kind of the upshot of what I have to say about this game. There isn't a ton to say about this. This was it was an important win, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the game itself had good flow. Certainly the pace was higher when Jeremy Lin was in the game. And the Minnesota reporter, like the sideline reporter said, at the start of the fourth quarter, between quarters, they have the team huddle. And she was listening into the huddle, and they said at that point in time, did the coaching staff of Minnesota, that the most important thing at the beginning of the fourth quarter was to contain Jeremy Lin. So they didn't want Jeremy Lin to get rolling because he had been rolling earlier in the game, and he was dictating the pace. And I thought Minnesota's first unit was slow tonight, but when Jeremy came into the game, he picked up the tempo, and that was helping out the whole team for Charlotte tonight. So that's kind of what happened. Second unit triumphs. They've redeemed themselves tonight after having a tough start to the season. Jeremy Lin finishes the game. Cody Zeller finishes the game. Jeremy Lin is the high scorer for the Hornets. And Charlotte gets a game that they really needed to win desperately, and they won it. Now, as I mentioned, let's talk about the Eastern Conference. Coming into this season, there was kind of a belief that there were going to be probably 6 spots of 8 in the Eastern Conference that were kind of sealed, teams were going to have them. Now, those teams are Cleveland Cavaliers, Atlanta Hawks, Toronto Raptors, Chicago Bulls, Miami Heat, and the Washington Wizards. That was pretty good thinking. Those were locked up. That meant that you have 2 spots open. And the East recently has been fairly weak. And so you kind of, if you play decently, even if you're under 500, you can make the playoffs. And that's what we thought about with Charlotte. That's kind of looked like there was a real possibility there. Well, there's one other team that is starting to look like a lock or playing really, really well, and that's the Detroit Pistons. They look very good. Now, that could change as the season goes along, but they're looking really strong. And so if that continues, that might only leave one spot. Washington Wizards aren't kind of playing up to par yet, but they should figure it out. They have a lot of talent on that team. So that would leave one remaining place for Charlotte to try to get into for the playoffs. And the other team, probably the best other team out there, or a team that a lot of people think now is going to get the 8th spot or the 7th or 8th or whatever, is the Milwaukee Bucks. And Milwaukee Bucks do have a lot of talent. Jason Kidd's doing a good job with them coaching, as far as I understand. I haven't watched them this year. So if Charlotte really wants to be able to get a playoff seed, if they want a spot, they need to play 500 or better basketball. They need to be even in wins and losses. So they had to win this game tonight, in my opinion. You don't want to slip too far off the trail early on in the season. And that sets up the showdown tomorrow night with the New York Knicks. New York is a better team. Certainly, they're better than they were last year. Porzingis is a excellent young prospect, the rookie. They have more talent. They're much better than they were last year. It's a winnable game. That's a winnable game for Charlotte. Both teams are flying into Charlotte tonight. New York's game ended tonight, maybe, 30 minutes before Charlotte's did. So I don't know what times the teams are going to get in there. Of course, Charlotte will have the home court advantage, the fan support and everything, but it's not like it's make or break tomorrow for Charlotte to win, but I would imagine Charlotte would be slightly favored because they're at home. And if you win that game, you're 4-4. And it's like you're starting the season off 0-0, and you've already played 5 very difficult opponents. Well, 4 opponents in 5 games. You played Atlanta twice. So play the Knicks tomorrow. That'll be 8 games. And 5 of those teams you've played are real good, or kind of elite, or thought to be elite Eastern teams. If you're able to come out of that stretch with a 4-4 record, you're in pretty good shape. So that's what I'm looking at right now. That's why, I'm thinking about Jeremy. I'm thinking about everything, and everything's going to be easier for Jeremy if the team does well. If the team does well, everybody's more relaxed. Everybody's more confident. The reins are a little bit looser. There's more wiggle room, and that's going to help Jeremy out. So what I'm focused on mostly right now is the team winning. I'm not saying I agree with everything or every maneuver or decision that Coach Clifford makes, but just win. And the team won tonight, and they won the other day. I can't remember now. So that's the important thing. And that's how I'll be feeling tomorrow. Let's just get this thing, try to get this to at least even record. Then let's go from there. Also, I will say, Coach Clifford is clearly still experimenting with lineups. He used all kinds of different lineup combinations tonight that I don't think he's used before. He's used very rarely. So I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to find a secondary group or a second unit that works well together. Because I looked at the statistics the other day, and thanks to Bill for sending them along, the lineup information, kind of like how well you do with certain 5-men combination are on the court. You can find that on NBA.com under stats. The second units have been horrible for Charlotte. Just terrible in terms of plus minus, and it just, they've been really, really bad. So I think Clifford and his staff, they know that. They have that information. They're trying to figure out okay, our starting unit's pretty good. It's played pretty well. But the second unit's killing us. So we've got to find some assortment of guys that's going to work. And so I think he's experimenting with that. He's also playing around with the starting group as well. So I would tell this to Jeremy Lin fans. Nothing's set in stone yet. And it could be the case all year. It could possibly be the case that Jeremy Lin and Jeremy Lamb will finish different games. One night, Jeremy Lin finishes the game. The next night, Jeremy Lamb finishes it. P.J. Hairston might finish it, depending on what the team needs or what Coach Clifford thinks the team needs. I should mention with P.J. Hairston, he sat out the second half of this game with a migraine headache. Hopefully he's going to be okay. Those are not fun, and that's a serious thing. So hopefully he'll be all right with that. We'll have to see what his status is for tomorrow. I haven't heard anything except that he was out for the second half of this game. I said this on Twitter and I'll repeat it here. 2 reasons why you might play Jeremy Lamb over Jeremy Lin is Jeremy Lamb is bigger, he's taller, and he's longer, and he's considered a better shooter. Jeremy Lamb, one of the main traits for him is that he's a good shooter. Now, he hasn't always shot the ball well, but his shooting form is really, really good. So if Coach Clifford wants to space out the floor and give more room, and he wants one shooter, he can pick Lamb or Lin as the shooter, well, he might pick Jeremy Lamb. And so some of that might happen. That's why I've said Jeremy Lin needs to keep working on his shooting. That's going to put him in a much better position as a player. We know how hard he's worked at it. It's not like he's not working at it. He's worked at it and works on it constantly. It just needs to get better, and I'm sure it will get better. He's tweaked his form, and it takes time for that to settle in. I think now it's like sometimes you can see the one form, and then he'll go back to his old form. So it's just going to take time. It can improve. It will improve. I'm not concerned about it. That's why I'm not even concerned about the minutes or whatever. As he keeps getting better, he's going to play more. He's going to play more. I'm sure of that. So that's my thoughts on that. That's kind of the overview. The game against the New York Knicks is tomorrow night here in the United States at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So it's less than 24 hours away. That means the game will take place on Thursday, November 12th at 8 a.m. in the morning in Taipei, Taiwan, and in China. As I mentioned, both teams are on back-to-back, and both teams are it's an important game for both teams. The Knicks want that final playoff spot too. And so both teams are going to be motivated. The Knicks they're talented. They have decent depth. Like I said, they're a lot better than they were last year. But it's definitely a winnable game for Charlotte. So they just need to figure out a way to win that game. There's a whole bunch of positives that happen for the Hornets tonight. So use that. Just hopefully they'll have a good plane ride home, and guys are feeling good, and they'll get a good night's sleep, and hopefully P.J. Hairston's feeling good from the migraine, and we'll be at full strength tomorrow. And it's on to the next one. Like I said, get to 4-4, get to a 4-4 record, then you've righted the ship. You're in a position that you want to be in. And now we can it's almost like a reset to the season after that difficult 0-3 start. I think it was. So, okay, that's it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Your comments below. I want to thank Gary Chen for the artwork you're looking at there right now in front of you. Gary is an artist and blogger in Taiwan. You can learn more about Gary and the Jeremy-only Lin Garden fan group, which Gary is a part of, by following the links in the video description below the video player. We'll get you highlights of this game also in the video description. Finally, in the video description, you'll find information about how you can join the Conservative New Media Facebook group and how you can come follow us on Twitter. We love talking to people on Twitter, talking basketball. We're talking during this game. Once again, I am PFE Paulo Filario, the NBA expert. Thanks a lot for watching Conservative Media. We strive to be the #1 Jeremy Lin YouTube fan channel. Great win, critical win. Team goes to 3-4 rather than falling to 2-5. Let's saddle up and get ready to win tomorrow. Tomorrow's the key game, and I can't wait, and I'm looking forward for hopefully another Hornets win then also.